Glorious morning. Luke is here.
Hello, everybody. We're sharing the same room.
Let's send this out a bit. But glorious morning, Pythians. It's gonna be a great one. And no, excited to, I guess, have Chop in my usually personal room here.
Got the pith glow as my halo. We're ready to go. Who are we live with this week, Petito?
We're talking to Cooper from Injective Labs, which I think a few Pythians know about. Let me send out a quick tweet to get the word out as much as possible and give you guys a few minutes. Also in the Discord. But no, how you doing, Chop, today?
Very well. Very well. It's lovely to be here in the office with everybody. It's a lot better than sitting in a room by myself back at home, and getting to hang out with the rest of the team is always good fun. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes, in Porto, Dove. Yes, I am. I'm right here in the flesh.
I'm always in Europe, Josh. I'm always in Europe. But no, let's see. Get a few people in, and I see Cooper in the background. Very excited to be talking to Cooper actually today.
Yeah.
They've been cooking a ton of cool stuff on their end, and we've been very pleased to work with them. But no, I don't have anything else much to intro.
No.
Apart, this is very weird, just
It is
being like right next to you right now. Usually I'm just staring in the screen. But no, I guess let's just make it have Cooper up on. GM, sir.
GM, how are you guys? How are things?
Good.
Very
So I hope the sound that we hear doesn't impact the mic here. How's the sound, guys? Cooper, where are you calling from right now?
I am calling from our office, our HQ here in New York City.
Oh,
you guys in Porto?
Yep.
Beautiful.
The HQ here, the Pith HQ. But no, thanks for taking the time to come on. Very special edition. We do this on a Friday, but we had to make this happen. So thanks a lot, Cooper, first of all. And first to kickstart, can you just tell us a bit about you and what you do at Injective Labs?
Yeah, totally. Well, first of all, thanks for putting this together. Super excited to be here. I'm Cooper. I am the institutional lead here at Injective. I've worked here for about 3.5 years now. And I've been in the space and been working with the Pith guys for over about 5-6 years now, across the DeFi kind of landscape. So excited to get into our conversation today. We've been cooking a lot of very exciting products across our ecosystem. That's all powered by the novel Injective kind of financial infrastructure. And we're super lucky that most of that is all powered by Pith. So excited to get into our conversation here today and let your community know about all of the opportunities of how we can leverage the two infrastructures and give them a better trading experience.
Awesome. What does your job involve, Cooper, for those who aren't really familiar with these kinds of things in Web3?
Totally. So working in the quote unquote business development space in the world of crypto, or specifically layer 1 blockchains, is a very expansive role. So covering everything from ecosystem to exchange liquidity to issuances to partnerships and beyond.
Cool. It's expansive. You wear many different hats then, I guess.
Yes, you have to. When you're a layer 1, there's also builds their own products, which we can get into more today, which is quite exciting. Things like Helix, and we have quite a lean team on our end. Got to wear a lot of hats.
Very cool. No, and I mean, I guess to kickstart a bit on Injective, can you, I guess, give us a bit of an intro of what you guys are building and a bit of the, philosophy behind it? Because I know it's a very open or a goal for a very open, accessible financial world to as many people as possible. So can you kind of give us a bit of a background on this?
Totally. So the mission and the goal is to democratize kind of access to financial markets and financial products at scale. And being a U.S. person and even seeing folks, some within the U.S. Obviously, many of the things that we're doing are non-U.S., which we'll get into. Has been a very exciting and very inspiring endeavor to be working on. But for those that don't know too much about Injective, Injective is a layer 1 blockchain custom built for finance-based applications. We offer developers, users, all different types of folks across the ecosystem, ultra fast, decentralized infrastructure, from everything from derivatives to real world assets. And our ecosystem includes the most performant on-chain order book, also known as a CLOB or central limit order book. We launch a bunch of different markets and have a bunch of institutional liquidity providers providing liquidity. And that allows for applications across our ecosystem and our stack to leverage those things, whether that be spot markets, derivatives, which would be perpetual markets in this case, binary options, and beyond. And recently we've launched iAssets. And iAssets are synthetic derivatives powered by Pyth, which allow users to access things like US equities for the first time fully on chain. We started this journey to building a fully, truly decentralized, permissionless financial ecosystem about 6 years ago. And really the goal is, to create an environment where anyone, anywhere can access and create advanced, financial markets and offer those to, users globally without intermediaries. And I think without intermediaries is really kind of the biggest piece, because intermediaries, across the globe are what cause so much friction and, take away and deny access, to several folks. So currently, we're a super fast chain. We have about 0.6, 600 millisecond block times, 25,000, TPS, and deep integrations across both the Cosmos and Ethereum ecosystems and beyond to, ecosystems like Solana and otherwise. We're very excited to be continuing to push forward to make Injective really the home for institutional grade decentralized finance.
Awesome. I'm seeing lots of stuff on my timeline lately about CLOBs. Do you say CLOBs or C-LOBs?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think order books, CLOBs, C-LOBs, whatever floats your boat. Tomato.
So my question is, because my brain is incredibly smooth, what is a C-LOB or a CLOB, and how do they work, and why do you think all of a sudden it sort of seems to be popping off as a narrative? Because I feel like I've seen a whole lot more about them over the past couple of weeks than I ever have before.
Yeah. No, great question, and excited to answer this one because I'm very excited. I know Eric, our founder, wrote a tweet earlier this week that people are finally understanding the difference between really the two things. So I'll start from a high level. My first job in traditional finance was working at a brokerage, and the way it worked, when I was working there, was there's a guy and he's quote unquote an intermediary or a broker. And he has like 5 banks on this side and 5 banks on this side, that are willing to transact for, let's say, an interest rate swap or some large kind of derivative contract, or, to keep it easy, to buy $500 or $100 million worth of gold, right? And he knows that there's 5 other banks that are probably in the market. And he goes out to all those different folks and finds pricing and then creates a price for those folks, right? And that's more of a quote unquote illiquid market where you have to have a broker go out and really create price discovery for you. To jump to something that's, more, traditional, let's talk about Tesla, right? Tesla trades on, let's say, the New York Stock Exchange or many other exchanges that operate as quote unquote central limit order books. And the way that works is within market hours, liquidity providers, market makers, whatever you want to call them, are posting bids and asks on a book, right? So essentially, how do you create price discovery for an asset? How do you know that a price of, Tesla is $100, let's say? You know it because there is a liquidity provider, posting orders at $101 and $99 and allowing for buyers and sellers to come in based off of that spread. And the reason that I tell that story is what initially got me into crypto probably about 5.5, 6 years ago was I was seeing a lot of these different meme coins go absolutely crazy. We're talking, all the way back almost 2 cycles now. And I had been in crypto for some time, but what I mean by that was I had a Coinbase account and I had owned some, Bitcoin or Ethereum or those types of things. And at that point, I had seen some of these things go crazy, and I said, okay, I'm going to go to my Coinbase account and buy this, XYZ meme coin, right? And I would show up to Coinbase and they weren't listed. So I was like, okay, where are these things, finding their price discovery? Where are people trading these things? How are they getting to $100 million, $1 billion market caps, all those different types of things? And I quickly found out that there was something called Uniswap. And Uniswap is an AMM model. And essentially it's an algorithm where you don't need an intermediary or you don't need a broker to find price discovery. It offers price discovery for your asset. And that was quite interesting to me, and it still is. And that's very interesting for long tail assets, right? For things that aren't widely traded. And what I mean by long tail is essentially down, like all the way down the risk curve. So things that aren't, traded, very frequently, don't have a lot of volume. To have a venue where that there's a price that where you can transact for, this new asset is a very novel concept, and it's very new to the market. However, what people don't necessarily understand is that framework is highly capital inefficient. So to make AMMs work, you have to plow hundreds of millions of dollars into them. For instance, for an asset like Bitcoin or Ethereum or any major altcoin, and folks don't necessarily have hundreds of millions of dollars to park in a capital efficient manner to do so. And that's where central limit order books come into play. So central limit order books are used, interestingly, by Coinbase, by Binance, by the New York Stock Exchange, by the NASDAQ, et cetera. So it is the common and most efficient way to find price discovery for an asset and allow for people to swap in and out of positions, whether that be spot assets, derivatives, et cetera. And essentially, Injective was the first ever on-chain central limit order book or exchange. And the reason why our founders initially set out to do this was they were very early into the crypto space and they saw Ethereum and Uniswap being the primary exchange location. And those different types of things are subject to MEV or front running. They're super highly inefficient. You have to pay a ton of slippage to enter positions. And they said, how can we create, the whole purpose of crypto is to be decentralized, to actually have transparency, to be fully on chain, all these different types of things. Mm-hmm. You have that experience on Binance and Coinbase, but you don't have that experience on chain just yet. So they had set out to build effectively a fully decentralized on-chain order book where users could have the same experience as Binance, but also be trading fully on chain with full transparency. And that was the goal and vision that we set out to build. We've obviously expanded the vision quite a bit since then. When I joined, we enacted COSM WASM smart contracts and essentially enabled us to build a full-fledged layer one ecosystem where any application that deploys a smart contract can atomically compose with our on-chain order book. So, you can build your own exchange from scratch and leverage all the the entire infrastructure and allow users to, easily swap in or swap out of positions, right? And earn fees from, growing and creating users and user acquisition. Or you can be a lending protocol, and a lending protocol on Injective doesn't have to worry about processing their own liquidations or finding liquidity providers for liquidations. They can actually just liquidate down to that central limit order book that sits on the chain level. So hopefully that was a helpful explanation, but essentially it's a much more capital efficient way for price discovery or trading to occur. And it's what's seen across the kind of ecosystem, in kind of the TradFi world. And we believe, and I think from a capital efficiency standpoint, we'll continue to see folks continuing to build in this manner.
So, because AMM was the time, the DeFi summer, that was the craze of AMMs. And doing my research on Injective earlier, I was like, you guys were, I guess, the first one to really say, okay, we're doubling down on this. My little, question following this is, do you think it's because we've been focused or mostly AMM centered because the tech and the chains were not fast enough to actually build a club fully on chain?
So that's a great question, because as you're noting, building a club on chain is much, much more complex and much more complicated to build, because as you're noting exactly, right, Injective is an incredibly fast chain at 600 millisecond block times. Solana, I believe, somewhere is around 450. They're one of the fastest chains out there. And in the world of the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, people are placing and canceling orders on like a nanosecond, like a second, but like, sub-second basis. And when your block time is about 600 milliseconds and you're going to, pitch institutions to join and take part in what you're doing, they effectively are like 600 milliseconds. That's quite long. Or essentially, let's go to Ethereum's case, right? You could never build an efficient central limit order book on Ethereum. So we've had a lot of success in what we've done because we've been able to optimize our stack quite a bit, and really make the chain super fast, cheap, and performant. And focusing on that has really unlocked our abilities on the central limit order book side. But I think that we are really we have a lot to work on here in the future with our infrastructure to really grow the ecosystem and grow the amount of users that we can bring onto these products.
Why do you think we've been seeing more about clubs over the past couple of weeks as opposed to any time previously? Is it just that the broader market is catching up with what's going on and they're a bit more educated about clubs and the benefits, or something else?
It's a great question, and I'm actually thinking about it in real time with you guys. I would say my take on this is that traditionally for the past 6 years since I've been involved, even longer since many others have been involved, really assets have been digital asset backed, meaning it's all been about the Pepes of the world. It's all been about the different, kind of digital assets of the world. And we're very, very quickly, with the new regulatory environment and the new kind of wave of crypto that's coming into place here, and institutional acceptance, entering a world in which we've built all this infrastructure for digital assets for the past 6 years. But the purpose of building it was to plug real world assets into those things.
Yeah.
And if we're actually going to build a financial ecosystem that can compete with what's happening on Wall Street, we need to have the same infrastructure and the same archetype, and then have the optimizations on top. And I think people are waking up to that, and by doing so, they need these different types of architectures that we're building to compete. So I think that really the pivot to folks actually understanding that real world assets will be the differentiator for DeFi long term is really the reason why we're seeing this kind of push towards central limit order books across ecosystems.
Cool. So a combination of a more educated market and a more institutionalized market at the same time.
Yep, I would agree totally.
I probably quit.
I probably quit.
No, very cool. And I want to now a couple topics on what you guys been cooking this year, because I think there's two big and continuous development. First one is into institutions. I see you guys are onboarding a bunch of big names. I've seen Google. I've seen a few others. What's been what's your take on the success of this onboarding, and what kind of different roles do those play? Because I think you have some validators and you have other institutions doing different kind of things on Injective.
Yeah, great question. So we view institutional adoption as probably one of the most important prongs of this cycle, in being able to advance what we've done and what we've built for the past 6 years. And whether it's, as you're noting, partnering with institutions to come on chain and trade for the first time. We've been working on that tirelessly. We've done quite a good job with it. You can see some of the largest names in the industry on the trading side of things, fully integrated and trading on the Injective infrastructure. But it's not just trading, right? The staking is a huge component. So, the ability to run a validator has been huge. We've onboarded NTT Digital, which is, a massive, massive conglomerate, Deutsche Telekom, Google Cloud, and many more to come. I know that Galaxy Digital, a couple other very exciting ones are coming to market just now. Not sure how much, is out there already. But we think that having at every corner of the ecosystem kind of institutional backing will really cement us, with the ability to onboard those folks to our broader blockchain solutions. And obviously we're onboarding them now, across the stack, whether it be trading, whether it be, RWA issuance is a huge one, right? That we're working on right now, in addition to staking. So we believe that, given the current climate, these folks are coming around and they're open to it for the first time. And there's only really a handful of partners that they can go out and work with, that are well vetted, that have been in the market for several years. And we're really attacking the opportunity at the highest level, to work with as many of those as possible.
Cool. Is Injective an EVM based chain, is it not? Am I right in saying?
So great question. So initially, the team chose the Cosmos SDK to build our highly performant infrastructure, obviously because it's super fast, super quick, and was very great for our use cases. However, the pullback is that probably 90% of the developer mindshare across the entire developer crypto landscape is in the EVM world. So we've been working for over, I want to say 8-9 months now, on building the most performant EVM that can directly atomically interoperate with our Cosmos-based L1 and that exchange order book, that we've been chatting about. So we will be, kind of between us here on the podcast, things have been achieved internally for us, on a likely a testnet based basis. But we will be very excited later this summer to push our EVM fully out to mainnet and expand to the entire ecosystem. So for the first time, applications will be able to seamlessly come over, deploy their Solidity contracts, and interoperate with our native exchange module. So EVM is what we've been working on natively for quite some time. We know Pith will be a day one partner there for us as well. And we're very excited about all of the huge applications that we'll be able to leverage, because from a business development standpoint, when you go to a lot of, let's just say, banks, or let's say institutions that are coming on chain, or even let's say blue chip dApps, right? And they can go deploy on a huge EVM chain seamlessly in just probably a couple weeks, or they have to hire 3 new engineers to rewrite everything into WASM or WebAssembly. It's a much more compelling pitch, and we think it'll definitely elevate us to the next level and really be kind of the catalyst for the next big run that I see for Injective from our perspective.
Yeah, because I think also I don't want to go too deep in technicals, but you have the in EVM, right, which is the layer 2.
Yes, great question. So effectively, we worked with a couple partners, and we had seen a ton of demand about a year ago into Injective offering EVM, and to essentially validate the demand for an EVM on Injective, because it was quite a lift for us to spin this out, and has been a huge kind of focus for 8 or 9 months internally. To do so, we essentially launched in EVM, which was essentially a roll-up that directly interoperated with our L1, but not atomically, essentially a roll-up on top of Injective. And there was a ton of success there. And with us launching and rolling that out, we quickly realized, okay, based off this amount of demand, for instance, I think our initial bridging partner on that roll-up was Hyperlane. And of all of Hyperlane's integrated chains, I think that an EVM had like the most activity. Don't quote me, but something like that. So with that being the case, we decided to build our EVM natively, and it'll be coming to market very soon.
So it was pretty much a test to see, okay, are we getting traction from this? And now we're going full. We're doing the full multi-VM build to make that happen.
Yep, exactly that.
Very cool.
I see some incredible community members that you have listening in. I will say that Helix is a proof of product that we've built, helixapp.com. I would definitely recommend that within the ecosystem to go check out. But there's a ton of apps like Neptune. All these, by the way, powered by Pith. Neptune, is a great lending protocol. But I would definitely, we just launched, for instance, oil yesterday. Very timely, because I guess there's a lot of volatility in the oil market given the geopolitical kind of situation. But we launched Oil Perps just yesterday, powered by Pith. So a lot of interesting I assets that you can trade there. And also I see when spot I assets. Definitely stay tuned. It's one of our biggest pushes that we're making right now. So I've been working on it tirelessly, and hopefully in the next couple of months you'll see something very exciting come to market.
Oh, very cool. I guess you made the transition to I assets for. So yeah, can you tell us a bit more about these I assets? So it launched what,
Smooth segue.
4, 5, 6 months ago or something like that?
Yes, so we facilitated over $500 million in I asset volume so far, as I see some of our community members are mentioning. I assets are synthetic derivatives, and what that means is it's a perp. You're pulling in a PITH price feed, and then you're essentially trading off of liquidity that's being provided by institutional liquidity providers on an order book. We've launched at least 10 markets now. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but Tesla, Google, Microsoft, MicroStrategy, Coinbase, oil, Forex pairs, like the pound, like the euro. And you can trade all of these things on chain with leverage. So definitely, take a look into all those different types of things, and definitely, go to helixapp.com if it's interesting to anybody listening in, and take a look at using those things. We see that as our mission is to provide financial products and markets, and democratizing access to those, that many folks in emerging markets don't have access to U.S. markets, and providing them with access to these U.S. markets has been a big win for us and has been super interesting for us. So we plan to launch many more of these markets in the future. We plan to continue scaling liquidity quite significantly across these markets, and we also are working, as noted, on spot assets that can be directly interoperable across the stack and across the ecosystem into things like lending protocols and so on.
Very cool.
Am I right to say, Cooper, that I assets don't require pre-funding or collateralization? And
no, great question. So currently, all of our markets are margined in USDT. So effectively, you post USDT as your margin, and then you can get your exposure with leverage.
Okay.
Interesting. And how does PITH feed into that? Like, we obviously provide the price feeds, and you are a highly performant and fast chain, so you need those price feeds to be updated very quickly, right?
Yep, exactly that. So effectively, we've built this decentralized exchange, central limit order book infrastructure. But the most important part of that, one of the most important parts of that, is being able to pull in live price data. And we use PITH in this case. And it needs to be blazing fast, right? Because if someone needs to get liquidated or someone needs to open a position, they need to understand what the mark price is. And using PITH for that is very important. And PITH is used for the mark, and then liquidity providers will come in and post bids and offers based off of that mark price and allow users to open positions in either direction.
Very cool. Did you guys see the Circle day one listing that we did, and the performance on that side?
I think you guys listed, actually.
Yeah. So I think that our partnership was the reason that we worked through that, from my understanding. But yes, we had Circle up day one on Helix and across the ecosystem on Injective, and that was all thanks to PITH being able to provide that price feed to us super quickly in a very robust and decentralized way. With I think a lot of when you guys post a feed, it's not just coming from an API that could go down and crush the exchange. It's coming from a decentralized network of a ton of publishers. So the redundancy there is huge for us, and knowing that we can trust such a strong feed.
Very much so. This is just more of a generalized question, but have you been surprised at the performance of Circle and how that's all played out over the past week or so?
Yeah. On a personal basis, I mean, listen, I'm super long stablecoins. I think stablecoins are exactly what we're chatting about in this context, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, stablecoins need blockchains to work on top of, but they eliminate intermediaries, and they break down barriers for people to access dollars globally. And I think that stablecoins are a massive innovation, and people have been saying stablecoin super cycle for a couple months, and I am also a believer. Yesterday, with seeing things like Bank of America announced that they'll launch a stablecoin, I think it's all quite interesting. What I will add is that I think Circle's valuation is quite interesting and could also be treated like a meme stock at these rates. After looking at some of the financials myself. But I think the category is definitely ripe and definitely exciting for the coming years.
Is there a certain way you're looking to gain exposure to a stablecoin super cycle at all? And I see people asking this quite often, and I think it's not a particularly easy question to answer, because you obviously just buying stables isn't really getting exposure to the growth of that industry. You've got to dig a little bit deeper than that.
Yeah. Wait, no, I missed that for one moment. I missed your question. I apologize.
Do you have a preferred method or strategy, or any ideas about how people could get better exposure to a stablecoin super cycle?
Great. That is a great question. I've been thinking about that myself personally. I think that we're going to see a lot of IPOs like the Circle IPO in the coming months. I think that, interestingly, something that we're working on side by side with new things like iAssets, et cetera, is effectively the concept of taking secondaries. So right now, venture firms or high net worth individuals or angel investors are the only people that are going out and investing in stablecoin issuers or getting access or exposure to the equity of those companies. And we've been working for a long time, with a couple of folks such as the Republic to bring some of our first issuances, ever on chain that will allow for a fractionalized piece of an SPV to be issued or offered to a user in, let's say $100 slice, as opposed to a $100,000 investment. So I would stay tuned for a lot of these different types of platforms. We're building it out with that, across our ecosystem. I find it very interesting. I think it's probably one of the most interesting things is bringing private markets and allowing them to be more publicly accessible. Yeah. Even the folks within the US, right? They have the ability to go into their Robinhood account and buy Tesla, but they don't have their ability to go on and get access to Kraken right now, right? And from my understanding, Kraken's raising a pre-IPO round. They're about to IPO. Why can't everybody have access to that pre-IPO round? And I think that, that within the context of stablecoins is probably where the access point is. So I think that we need to continue pushing forward those types of platforms and create that private market access.
I love it. You guys have had a really busy 2025 so far with Injective and with Helix. What do you guys got on the roadmap for the rest of the year? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, great question. So we are launching our EVM towards the end of the summer, which is very exciting, and I'm very excited about across the board. In addition, I would say that there is a lot of awesome iAsset work being done that we're looking forward to. There's a lot of great ecosystem work being done and a ton of dApps coming to market. I think over 20 dApps on the ecosystem side. Our incredible ecosystem team being run by Justin and a few others have 20 plus dApps that'll be coming live on our mainnet. That'll be quite interesting. I think that a lot of the unique work that we're doing with government entities and institutions, whether that be the ETF work that we've been pushing on within the US quite closely, or the iAsset work to bring spot assets across US equities all the way to things like equities within Hong Kong or elsewhere, are very interesting. And I think a lot of our kind of institutional partnerships to bring different types of quote unquote financial institutions into forms of pilots and having them test their different types of use cases on chain with blockchain solutions are going to be very interesting. And we're working very closely on Injective to bring them those custom tailor-made solutions. So, they don't have to build their own exchange or blockchain out of the box. They can have access to a fully customizable one, that we've built.
When you're talking about the 20 apps coming, is it apps or a bit already on Injective right now, or is it brand new one coming to with the EVM?
Yeah, great questions. So a lot of those dApps are going to be, blue chip dApps that you're aware of that are deployed across a lot of other EVM chains. And I think the purpose of those dApps is really to fulfill the ecosystem with their needs, right? So if you need a blue chip lending protocol, for Bitcoin, right, that you can go to this application and get a great experience. However, I will say that in a lot of our internal and strategic conversations, we've noted that it's almost more important in many cases to build unique one-of-one applications that for the first time will go live on your chain. So we've been putting a lot of time and effort into helping and incubating and working alongside some great builders through things like accelerator programs and otherwise that'll come live for the first time natively on Injective in our EVM. So I think it's a multi-pronged approach to bring a lot of the blue chips that'll bring people in and get people excited, but to keep them around, we think it's important to have very bespoke, unique use cases and applications that people can use. Helix being one of those things.
Does injective staking come into play at all there with those new native applications?
Yeah, totally. So injective staking is quite interesting, or I would say unique in that the staking rate is currently 12%. So that unlocks a ton of incredible, and we're able to do that, by the way, because we have a revenue mechanism on chain where we take all the trading fees from the CLOB and we burn them through an auction process on a weekly basis. And with that, we're able to spend more in terms of a tokenomic perspective on securing the network, and that comes with huge optimizations to things like staking with a 12% staking APR, which then allow great DeFi activity to come in the form of loop stake or LSTs or multiple pronged borrow lend off of those things, etc. So yes, staking will definitely play a big part in kind of the DeFi super cycle that will occur on Injective.
Awesome. When we were talking to the community about having you guys on, one of the things that they mentioned a lot was the Injective ninjas, and they were curious about how the ninjas came about and their sort of function inside of the Injective community.
Yeah. So I was not part of the branding and PR team that put it together, but we love our community more than anything. And essentially, you can spell it with Injective, I believe, or INJ, or there's some variation of that, right? Where that's where we got our mascot from, and our mascot is fantastic. And I tweet with it almost after every tweet, and it's been fantastic. But love to hear that your community is just as entrenched as well.
We like our community lore. We enjoy getting around.
Yes, you guys have an incredible community yourselves. What would you guys call your mascot?
We have a bunch of different ones. Probably the most recognizable is the perb, the Pith integrated recon bird, the pigeon, which is a bit weird but fun at the same time. And that kind of that came about organically, just by people in the community enjoying themselves and making weird pigeons and coloring them in and drawing all sorts of weird stuff around them. And it's been quite fun watching it evolve, actually, because of the history of pigeons in finance is actually really interesting. And it sort of mirrors what Pith is doing in modern finance. Pigeons sort of did for pre-finance, in that they were delivering and carrying information a lot faster than any other traditional methods were able to at that time. And pigeons sort of revolutionized finance back in the day in the 1600s, 1800s. And in much the same way, Pith is doing the same thing in the Web3 space now in modern finance. So it's a funny coincidence, actually, that has happened and come about. But yeah, we love our perbs and our community lore. It's nice to see Injective has some strong community lore there as well.
Yes, we do. We think community is probably the most important part of building a great ecosystem. So yeah, agreed totally. And I love that lore. I think that definitely ties back quite a bit to, prices and price discovery with the pigeons.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys have Injective Summit coming up in a couple of weeks. Is that right?
That's correct. We couldn't be more excited to have Pith there as a lead sponsor with us. And, I know that you guys are going to have a bunch of different speaking slots and a booth and all different types of stuff happening. So we're super excited about, our Injective Summit. It'll be on June 26th in New York City. We've essentially tailored this event to be the crossover between crypto, traditional finance, and regulation, as we think that those are really the most three important prongs that are coming together. So we have an incredible speaker lineup from things like, for instance, the superintendent of the NYDFS. We have, the CEO of the Blockchain Association, all the way to people like the head of digital assets at Citibank, and the list goes on. So we're super excited, and we also have some special surprises coming there as well in terms of people and speakers. So I would definitely, if everybody, anybody who's in town, please come in, or anybody that's listening. It should be our best event to date in our 6-year history.
Cool. Is there a particular speaker you're looking forward to, or a side event or something?
Yeah. So I can't share too much here. I mean, I'm super excited for the institutional panel. We have folks like the CFO of Gemini coming, Kyle, the head of product or director of digital assets at Van Eck, the folks from Citibank. So I'm very excited for that panel. I think that'll be interesting. And then we have some a little bit of star power coming in, from potentially the celebrity side for a quick little fireside. So that'll be interesting. Dropping some alpha. It's still coming together. We'll still have to make it come together. But if that can come together, I'll be super interested.
Looking forward to it. Is it being streamed at all? Do you know, or is it only
Yes,
for
we'll
live?
definitely be streaming it globally, without a doubt. We'll
Awesome.
definitely have to get you guys the links for that, or provide those. It'll definitely be all over Twitter that day on June 26th for sure.
Awesome. I look forward to it. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. Anything you guys are looking forward to in the Pith ecosystem?
Quite a bit. There's always new developments with new price feeds and stuff coming up. Every second day there seems like a new development on that side of things. And there's probably things that we can't talk about yet, actually. Some changes to our overall product offering. I might have even said too much there, so I probably shouldn't go any further into that. But yeah, we're really excited for that.
Giving the community some alpha here today. I love it.
Exactly. We've got a lot coming up for the latter half of this year, and partly why I'm here in the office with Pepito, and we've got a whole other people here in the office. We've got a lot to talk about and a lot to hash out in the lead up to the end of the year. So we're really looking forward to it.
And to only what I can add is that we've got the cracked engineers just chewing glass on the products. So lots of I'd say very base level foundational product upgrades and stuff like that are gonna make the price feeds go faster and go further, and a ton more coming. So I think that's the alpha. Why is it alpha? I don't know, but we can share.
I love it. Chewing glass is definitely alpha. That's happening in the office there. That is definitely some alpha. I love to hear it.
And we're lucky. We're just the simple degens, just clicking and scrolling Twitter and doing marketing. So we have the easy part in this job.
Yep, the three of us together here. I love it. I also see a question here from a community member about the Peggy Bridge. For folks that are interested in understanding a bit more about the Peggy Bridge is actually secured by all of the validators of the chain. So essentially, that bridge is just as secure as the chain is. So I think that's important to note as well. So just to tap in on.
Awesome. It's been great having you, Coop. I have one final question for you that I ask all of our guests at the end of our chats, which is if you had one piece of advice that you could give yourself if you were entering Web3 today, what would it be? Something that you've learned, or a piece of advice that you think would go far that you wish you had when you were joining?
Yeah, great question. And I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been talking to a lot of folks on this topic. I think that the most important thing is to learn and to understand a lot of these different primitives. They seem on the outset like they're all super highly complex. Like 5 years ago, if you asked me what a central limit order book was, or like any of these wild terms that we use in crypto, I wouldn't know what any of it meant. The EVM, like all this different type of stuff, it's all actually very simple, but we've wrapped all this incredibly complex vocabulary around it. But in reality, it's not that complex at all. So my advice would be read, learn, and I think most importantly, reach out. The first ever internship I got in crypto about 6 years ago was through a cold LinkedIn DM message. So every opportunity is always there. And that's actually how I got this job at Injective as well, funny enough, partially. So always reach out and always, be willing to work hard. And I think that's about it. I think you guys know it better than anyone.
Yeah, I think that's the latter part of your answer there shines through with everybody that we talk to, which is reach out, make relationships, get to know people as much as you can, and don't be afraid to ask questions and learn as much as you can. So,
and on top of it, this is like the most friendly industry I've ever seen in my life. It's like everybody wants to be friends outside of work, the whole bit. So I think that the friendship part, just being a good person, is super important.
It feels like people are almost always willing to help and to impart their knowledge on people and help each other grow, because we all benefit from everybody else's growth, I think, which is really important to understand. And you're right, it's a very level playing field for everybody, essentially, that there's not a whole lot of hierarchy going on, and everybody's willing to share.
It is that I think is so important to understand. I go in, many of my best friends my entire life all work in the banking industry. And you have to work for 8 years before you're taken seriously, right? At the highest level, right? In this world, you have to work for probably 2, 3, and be good at what you do. And so I think the barriers to entry are really there for those that can come in and work hard and make a difference.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you very much, Coop, for your time and chatting.
Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your Friday, and thanks so much for having me on here today. I'm looking forward to powering more products with Pith.
You must.
Will do. Cheers.
Get to building. Thanks, Cooper.
Thanks, Coop.
Keep doing glass. Bye, guys.
Great. I'm here. I haven't had time to do our quiz, Pepito.
No, there's no quiz. We love you.
Today. No quiz today. I'll see if I can sort one out for next week. We're chatting to... Who are we chatting to next week? I lined it up already, but I've
Yes. Do you want to announce?
Yeah, but I'm forgetting their name. Do you remember their name?
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, we can announce it.
Paradex.
That's them. Yeah, we're chatting to Paradex next week.
There's going to be some trading talk and alpha there, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one. We're looking forward to the Paradex chat.
Did we miss any question? I don't think so. I think Plank's question, Elix, or ask Josh in the Discord. He's going to tell you where to go.
Yeah.
Dove, now my mother is not yet coming on the show. I'll keep...
We're going to keep trying.
I'll keep asking her, but maybe.
Ramses, I think your iAssets question got answered.
Yeah, you can trade them on Elix.
Yeah.
It's I guess it's created, or what they named the equities and US stocks that you can trade on Elix. They're called iAssets. So Apple, Tesla, and so on. So you can do that on Elix. Not exactly sure the leverage you can get, but I think it's probably 25 or 50x leverage on those. So it's pretty juicy, pretty cool.
Done.
And that's it. That's it from our side, I think. I don't have anything else.
No, we're done.
Just keep the memes coming. I laugh. Makes me laugh.
They're so good. I'm loving the Pepito meme arc. They're 10 out of 10. We've been sharing them around the office all day. And for a long time. They're really good.
Yeah. So keep them coming. I'll try to print the top 5 and get them in my room or something to have some fun.
Oh, yeah.
But no, thanks Chop, thanks Pythians, and see you next week.
I'll be here.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone.